In this video, I'm going to unbox the Samsung Q7F QLED television and go through the picture settings in the user menu. What's that? How am I going to unbox a television that has already been unboxed? Well, that would normally be a problem, but Samsung has very generously sent me two Q7F QLED televisions for my side-by-side comparisons once they found out that LG is taking away my B7. So it's truly a case of out with the O and in with the Q. Let's unbox this TV. This is the invisible optical cable. The new One Connect box for QLED TVs, which will also require a separate power supply, as you can see here. Right, the V-shaped stand base. And now this is what I always struggle with Samsung televisions, yanking the panel out from the box. So this is the Samsung 49-inch Q7F QLED television, all unboxed and set up. I haven't managed to connect any video source to it yet, but what I'm going to do now is to go through the picture menu and see what's available. If we press the settings button on the remote control, select the picture mode, and then there are 4 picture presets here by default, which are dynamic, standard, natural, and movie. And a professional calibrator like myself can unlock 2 further picture modes, the Cal Day and Cal Night mode for separate day and night calibration. But we'll just go into movie for now. Picture size settings just lets you adjust the aspect ratio and disable overscan if necessary. Go into picture settings. Backlight is basically how much light you want to extract from the television. The higher the backlight, the brighter the picture, because the LED LCD, it will have its LED module driven to a higher intensity, whereas a lower backlight will be dimmer, as you hopefully can see from the camera. Now, setting the optimum backlight is basically to do with your viewing environment. If your viewing environment is brighter, then you will need a higher backlight, but in a dimmer room, you don't need as bright a backlight. So we'll just go back to 7, which is the appropriate setting for the camera so that it's not actually overblown. Brightness is basically the digital black level normally, but on the 2017 sets from our testing, all of the 2017 Samsung televisions, they clip, they don't actually show below black data. So what this brightness control is actually, it actually affects the near black gamma rather than affect the digital black level. So if you actually increase your brightness, it doesn't actually show more below black detail or blacker than black detail. And if you go down, it actually doesn't crush any shadow detail too. What it does is that it just affects the near black gamma. So a higher brightness setting will brighten the near black gamma, whereas a lower brightness setting will lower the near black gamma. So we'll just go back to 0. Contrast is the digital white level. So if you actually set it too high, then you may be clipping some white detail or even whiter than white detail. But if you set it too low, then you will be reducing the dynamic range of your image unnecessarily. We'll just go back to the default of 95. Sharpness is edge enhancement. Generally, as professional calibrators, we don't like to use it at all. Color is a global control that just affects all the colors in terms of their saturation and luminance. Tint will rotate the hue of the colors. Apply picture settings, you can select to actually apply it to all sources or to only limit any picture adjustments to the current input. Digital clean view is basically noise reduction. Auto motion plus setting, there are a number of settings here, I think. Okay, so there are off, auto, and custom. So auto motion plus is basically Samsung's motion compensated frame interpolation system. And also, if you actually set it to custom, you can separately adjust the deblur and dejudder components. And also, there's this LED clear motion, which is essentially black frame insertion. If we actually switch it on, hopefully you can see from the camera that there might be some flicker, and also the image has become darker. This is basically to insert artificial black frames in between the original video frames to improve motion clarity without incurring interpolation artifacts or soap opera effect. I'll just switch this off for now because my camera has been optimized for this kind of brightness. Local dimming. On the 2017 Samsung televisions, if a television has local dimming, it cannot be switched off. There are the various intensities of low, standard, and high, and local dimming high is required to reach the peak brightness that is demanded by HDR when the TV is in HDR mode. but we'll leave it to the default or standard for now. Contrast enhancer is just basically dynamic contrast stretching that tries to deepen the blacks and brighten the whites, but in the process usually what I find is that they can actually crush shadow detail and also blow out highlight detail. HDR Plus mode is Samsung's SDR to HDR conversion. Color tone warm to, so there are different color tone here, and color tone is just basically Samsung's nomenclature for color temperature or grayscale. So you have various presets here ranging from cool, which is far too blue, standard, warm 1, and warm 2, which is usually the most accurate, to the D65 standard that is usually in the film and broadcast industry. But generally I still find that warm 2 is still slightly too warm, as in it is still too reddish, introduces an unnecessary yellow tint to the image, which hopefully we can actually calibrate out by going into the white balance controls. And in the white balance controls of Samsung televisions in 2017, there are the 2-point system and the 20-point system. I'll start with 2-point. Under the 2-point system, there are 6 controls here. R gain stands for red gain, green gain, blue gain, red offset, green offset, and blue offset. Now, the gain controls affect the brighter portion of the grayscale, and the offset controls affect predominantly the darker portion of the grayscale. And using these controls, you can try and neutralize or flatten the grayscale to the D65 white point that is used within the film and broadcast industry. But new for 2017, Samsung has also implemented a 20-point white balance controls, which is more precise than the 10-point white balance system that is found on their 2016 KS series or the 2015 JS series, or any other Samsung televisions to date. So there's a 20-point control system, and it's usually a hassle to actually try and calibrate 20-point. But what Samsung has done very cleverly is to partner with Portrait Displays, who is the parent company that develops the Kalman calibration software, which we use and many other technical publications and calibrators use as well. So what this partnership has allowed is for us calibrators to perform DDC or direct display control on the 2017 Samsung televisions. So we can hook up a special cable from our laptop to the One Connect box of the Samsung 2017 televisions, including this Q7F QLED TV. We can make the adjustments directly from our laptop without actually summoning these user menus or controls on screen, which may affect the measurement. So I really do applaud Samsung for partnering with Portrait Displays to come up with this really fantastic way for professional calibrators or even DIY enthusiasts, if you have the necessary software, the equipment, and the cables, to hook up your laptop to these televisions to perform DDC or direct display control or even auto calibration. Gamma. Input signal is not directly proportional to the screen output, so there's usually a transfer function being applied, and the technical term these days is electro-optical transfer function. Electro meaning input signal, optical meaning the subjective light output on screen, and transfer function is basically a logarithmic factor that is being applied to make this conversion possible. And BT186 is the transfer function for standard dynamic range, and there are 2 grayed out settings here, which I don't know whether you can actually see from the camera, but it's ST2084, which is the standard for high dynamic range content, the open standard HDR10 content, and HLG, which is hybrid log gamma, backwards compatible HDR standard purpose for broadcast HDR that is developed by the BBC and the NHK. And you can adjust how bright or how dark you want the light output to be relative to the input signal. So if you actually go down, it will become darker. If you actually go up, it will become brighter. RGB only mode. In the old days, people or enthusiasts used to use color filters to check color decoding and to adjust color decoding. And the RGB mode is basically an electronic version of the color filter where you can turn the image red, green or blue for color decoding. But these days, as professional calibrators, we only use our meter to do the job. We don't really even depend on color filters anymore, because that is very analog and it may introduce some errors in the process. We require more precision and accuracy, and therefore we trust our meters more. Color space settings, there are a few options here: auto, native and custom. So generally auto is best if you want the TV to auto detect SDR and HDR and then apply the Rec 709 or Rec 2020 standard appropriately. But if you wish, you can actually go into custom, which unlocks the color management system on Samsung televisions. And there are several controls here. You can adjust the 3 primary colors of red, green and blue, and the 3 secondary colors of yellow, cyan and magenta. And under each color there are 3 further parameters for us to adjust, which is red, green and blue. It sounds really quite strange, but let me explain. So color management system on consumer televisions, they can be either RGB based or HSL based. By HSL based, I mean hue, saturation and luminance based. And most other television brands, including Panasonic and LG, their color management system is HSL based, whereas Samsung is RGB based. In theory, most color matrix has to be converted to RGB anyway, so the RGB based system is purer, is more direct. But from our testing and from our experience, there is basically no difference in the final result between an RGB based and a HSL based color management system, or CMS, if it is well implemented. And certainly the one on the Samsung TVs are very well implemented in terms of their color management system. So where was I? Okay, and then reset picture. One thing that always frustrates me on the Samsung television since 2016 and 2017 is that when you go down the menu, you can't scroll back up. So if you want to go back up the menu, you have to go from bottom to top again. So in effect, the menu can only go from top to bottom, like how I like to kiss my woman. So it's something that I have lobbied Samsung to change, to allow reverse scrolling, so that once I reach here, I can click downwards and get back up again. But I think that's not going to happen, so I'll have to keep going back up. And those are the picture settings. There are a couple of more settings that I need to show you, one of which is the game mode. Now, it is grayed out now because I haven't actually connected any source to this television. But on the 2016 Samsung televisions, the game mode is actually found in the picture mode, which is much easier for gamers to engage. But for 2017, they have reverted to form and put it back under general. So just make note of it here. Also, there is the HDMI UHD color, which you need to generally enable if you want to let your 4K Blu-ray player or any other device recognize that this TV is capable of HDR, or you need to enable it for a higher chroma and higher frame rate in ultra high definition resolution as well. And I think that just about wraps up my walkthrough of the picture affecting controls on the Samsung 49-inch Q7F QLED TV. If you found this video useful, please click the like button and subscribe to the HDTV Test YouTube channel for more videos like this. Thank you for watching. Oh, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the YouTube section below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you the next time.